All right. So I'm Ryan. I'm doing the plan administration and the overall leadership with a cryptocurrency asset based on three-tier regenerative living real estate. So I'm with Nicola. She's in Europe, foreign minister, kind of with investment banking. And this is Satoshi Nakamoto, Shane Mayfield. I just came out to visit him yesterday. I mean, we're in Portland, Oregon, and we just want to talk about his story and kind of where we're at to today. So
Yeah.
let you take it, Nicola.
Great. So we've had a trial run just to test the content, and I'm going to say I really want to hear the quick story about how 30 medical students in a dorm founded Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened. So real story would have been, I'm here with my team. This is my brother, Samir. He's behind me. And it all correlated to the root of Bitcoin would have been while we were in med school, I had a buddy who was one of the new classes. He came in with like a newspaper from China, and it had my family on the cover. And it's related to Brandon Mayfield, the Spain Madrid bomber. And it said, Spain Madrid bomber, Brandon Mayfield, arrested, blah, blah, except this is China saying released and innocent. He didn't do anything. Right. So this is
that your relative?
That's my dad.
Oh my Lord.
Right. And so that's what's being brought into the room when I've been like, if the banks punched dad, then I'd punch the bank back. And so this
is it not interesting where foreign policy, geopolitics, and money and banking come together, Shane?
Yeah, well, that's a reality of decency of schooling, which happened to have been adopted from Europe. We were here on the IB program when I went through high school. And so in med school, I mean, that's for the MD program for medical. So been like as difficult as a program could be, it's some of the smartest that exists in terms of a collective filter. And so then having 30 guys where there's 3 guys in each room, which is like a dormitory away from the school, each one has a different network, a different router per room. So then when it came to this idea of like hacking each other within the rooms would have been just as much as, can I get into his router, or can he get into his router, or can you get into my router? Right.
And so that was almost, there could be no blame put then if anyone was into everybody's
really
router.
No blame, exactly.
I see.
We're all on the same team. So then came outputs for names. So when I'd hacked somebody's computer, or got into somebody's router, got into some computer, could they identify that it was me? Or would then, if I copied his name, or I copied his name, if I made my computer look like his computer, or if I did it from his computer, would you have known? Yeah. Right. So it's become like this next level of what the battle of where Satoshi, the name comes from, would have been make up a name that you're going to use temporarily, right? And then you're going to drop the name and use a different name. Why? Because you, I'm me, we're who we are. But when it came to just like gaming online,
anonymous.
Correct.
Yeah.
Kind of like a root concept of where the name Satoshi Nakamoto comes from, right?
Yeah.
Part of that was, what was one of the guys, Tentosh?
Right. So then that anonymous name of where, like, who would validate it the greatest is Tantosh Sundaresh would have been. So we all thought his name was Satoshi, but his name was Tantosh.
And then Nakamoto came a play off of Hello Moto at the time or something?
Yeah, Nakamoto had like 2 background where it's on the TV for output for Iron Chef, right? Ichiro Nakamoto. And then you have the real deal in terms of just Moto versus Hello Moto. Like there's Nokia. And then you were thinking, there's no way you'd be able to root back who Satoshi Nakamoto was off of this interjumble of network.
Oh, totally. It's like scrambled, nonsensical.
Well, if it helps you feel better, then what happens is somebody else introduced that name like into the public in terms of root for Bitcoin. But the only one who could have done that would have been somebody who's part of my root for crew, for who would have ever have known that. Right. So that's how for me, I didn't like stick to this name Satoshi Nakamoto in terms of like, that's my name ever. And so later when I look at it, there's a guy who claims Satoshi Nakamoto in England, and it looks like the mafia there beat him to death, right? And so when we take a look at Satoshi Nakamoto, who holds the real name, there's a guy in Japan who has the real name Satoshi Nakamoto.
I saw that.
Born and raised. He's like a physicist. He's like an epic guy.
Oh, a genius, isn't it? But it is very unfortunate for those who met an unfortunate end.
Correct.
From the name.
Correct.
Oh, right.
Well, then
That is how desperate
that
people are
power.
to know when money is moving.
Oh, the curse of Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's
is-
when they collected the power and then what around them ate them. Like the moment they claimed something and then around them ate them, and been like how badly something wanted to be one step ahead of Satoshi, right? As much as it was just like a pseudonym that you made up and carry on.
You know, people
I
are
was
so
surprised
desperate to know the history of it.
nobody
Yeah.
at the root came forward to have expressed it this way, and then came everybody else who was lying about what root they are for Bitcoin. Would have been a clarity that anybody who's part of the root understood. And so you'd
Got
ask
it.
about NFTs, right? And been like, I've been up to date in terms of NFT based on what backing for value became a root for any banker wanted to know. I already argued in your favor the fact that it takes less light code to have produced a value to the NFT. That's less hashing rate and utilization of all the CPU. That's already nonsensical. And trying to create and equate that, see, then when it comes to electricity for our economics, what NFT could provide on the table just being a layer by ledger, just like root Bitcoin, but it's less code of processing and crunching to have ever produced. That's what NFT to me ever had to offer. So it's like a layer on top of the layers. Like it's
Layer.
now on the backing of the dollar that backed the Bitcoin, that backed the Ethereum, that backed the NFT is kind of like the whole process
And so
of where it was
let's
being
talk
introduced.
about what's you guys.
Still has a huge potential. Like
You guys mentioned briefly though, I just want to bring it back for the Bitcoin Cash and the Ethereum and how you were talking about that earlier. I just want to, I can't remember what you said with the Canadian. Half you guys were from Canada too, and they
Yep.
came up with the Bitcoin Cash, and then you feel like more American European came up with Ethereum.
So they had a fear that they'd be rooted, and then there came a concept of which ideology would output to work. And so Bitcoin has like a split, like not everybody's going to adopt the idea of Bitcoin as much as simplicity. What you guys were already talking about, a wallet, connecting a wallet, someone having a wallet.
We were talking about how Web3 connectivity essentially is too complex for user
that's more
bases.
simple. So then came an idea of almost like a picture or an image. That's the scanning, the QR. That's what looks like Canada had to offer. That then becomes like a huge insert of Correlate, where anybody who was already doing QR codes was already in the business, where it had been Fred Meyer, Safeway, like localized. They have their own UPC or code of what then can become a QR already in place, already in position. It just needed an upgrade. Now it's taking place in the process of the last like 10 years where QR code codes are part of an upgrade. And then look at Apple. Apple wanted Apple Cash. So it's been a concept of something that says, no, we want to.
Of course, they all want their own token. They all want their own. They want to own it, right? Who
Well,
doesn't?
that comes down to the idea of kind of what we're doing with asset-based tokenization now, and where Ethereum is kind of helpful with that, and where Bitcoin tends to just been behind the ball, where they kept innovating a bit more, right? And Bitcoin is just backed by our government's currency or various government currencies now, but there's still no real ends to stability to that, and that's where me and Shane, I met Shane a few years ago, but we started talking just a year ago about this real estate with the cryptocurrency. And, it's really him that kind of showed me the way to how, real estate becomes a better asset for currency. And now we can have, developmental based real estate, guiding how we want the future to be built in communities and travel to interact a little bit better. So it's how do we solve currency? But each country or anyone could have their own cryptocurrency, right? Their own development real estate cryptocurrency. So
Absolutely. I mean, the beauty of it is that when there is value, which property there is value, and
right,
when there is
especially if it's developing too, or growing or producing, and then some a property growing hemp and they're making clothing with it, and they're making a profit too, right? And so that becomes a value to that.
And do you know what is never ever valued is the level of talent and of the human capital involved? Because I know that most of the people I value the most in the world would jump on the chance to be part of a community initiative, because the way society is set up is for us to be pulled apart, and our homes to be apart. So when you're brought up seeing how Jews live in kibbutzes, and similar situations around education, and you kind of think, what's happened to community? Yeah.
Well, it's something that I processed in math in terms of I have the for what it is if we wanted to work on a solution. So immediately what we thought the best approach here is if you ever wanted to collaborate anybody to have met the root for Bitcoin, then that's something that now you have in the palm of your hand. And when it came to
Absolutely, let's do it. Let's do it, because basically I am seeing large chunks of money moving out of Bitcoin into Ethereum right now. So it's just Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're just going to be playing this war with the silly investors. Yeah.
And, you know, I just, so I come at everything from a logical, or I like the best, right? I'm kind of getting tired of fighting over what's best and just wants the best, you know, and everyone's got a little bit of the best on certain things. And so that's why I naturally gravitated to Ethereum, just because it's the best that I've seen when I got into crypto. I started mining it. I looked into mining Bitcoin. Oh, you need specialized servers now or specialized CPUs to do it. Well, at least with GPUs, well, you can go sell them to gamers. So there's a lot of different use for GPUs. And so I was like, oh, Ethereum. So I mined that. And that just stumbled me into the smart contracts and the innovation methods, you know.
Listen, so can you just, this is really helpful, because I know a few people who are new to crypto. I think they really benefit from knowing a little bit about what a smart contract is, because I see people like Hannah Rosenberg and lots of other people just, you know, repeated it. And yeah, quite a few people that I respect talking about the developments in smart contracts.
Yeah, well, I mean, that smart contracts become the ability to, that's what we talked about earlier briefly, was with government accountability. We talked about how, you know, that there's a little bit of blame in the Fed and how they have the control over the US dollar or fiat as it is, and even the yen for China, right, with their dollars, and how that's kind of a problem, and that there's no, you know, people control or even just a system set in place, right, for the money distribution and control. And that's what cryptocurrency gave us. But with smart contracts and the blockchain, now when, you know, when we give 2 billion to a guy to Haiti, when they're to their president, you know, if they spend it through the blockchain and through cryptocurrency, then we have a public ledger that we can start seeing where the money's spent, you know. And so now we don't, you know, that's been a huge problem that feds and governments have had too, is that yes, they've been creating money, or maybe, you know, irresponsible in a sense to some people with things, but at the same time, you know, they've given a lot of money to people, and it's just gone, they've just wasted it on themselves or their families instead of helping. And that's where the smart contracts can really come in place. You know, instead of, you know, we can have the accounting automated. You hire a programmer, you know, use either governance, voting, or whoever the administrator is to add in a new employee. And now you have a whole accounting system that just pays people manually on Friday based on the hours that they submitted, and, you know, whatever verification methods you use. And now you can see where that's gone from. But you'll want to, you know, instead of the accounting people losing jobs, you'll have people that'll have to analyze it. And sure, you know, there'll be jobs for people to look through it and see that the money is getting spent legitimately, right? Because a ledger does you no good unless you have, you know, auditors, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's key, you know, early stage is transparency, right?
Yeah, I think truth and transparency, I think, is everything to keep going upwards.
Sorry, early stage, you know, I'm a bit bent.
Yeah, no. Truth and honesty is the key to successful business. I have no doubt. Yeah.
Okay, so asset-based crypto. What do you think, Shane?
Asset-based crypto, you mean like NFTs, or you just mean the variants of these different cryptos that exist? And you mean taxable like asset? Or you mean asset?
What we're saying is I am going to put most of my energy into putting money into Ryan's fund. Yeah, because
our fund, really, because you're a key team member. We'll just get this out of the way. So far we have you as a key team member. We have Shane. We have Corey back in Austin, and then we also have Dick Rand, and we have Charlene, who's been helping with the fundraising. So those become, like, right now, the people that have been putting in the most work to, in the past, you know, I've only met you, we were connected 3 months ago, a few of you, but, you know, me and Shane and us, we've been really putting in the work the past few months, right? So
got it.
That's our core team now, and we have room to continue to expand that, you know, as interest. There's Robert McKimmey. He comes in as core team too. He's the smart contract guy. He's with you in Scotland there. You know, and so yeah, he becomes another one that I want to visit. But
talk to him. Let me
he's
talk
got
to
the
him.
whole governance tokens, and he really understands the SEC regulations with them, and And so he becomes a big Web3 smart contract guy for the setup of the organization that I'm proposing, or the DAO structure.
Got it. So back to the history of Bitcoin. What happened with you? Because Ryan might have told me a little story.
I don't, you tell her, I haven't told her much.
What is it? What is it that you heard in advance? I'm curious.
That a computer drive. It might not be new, but he did tell me a story about someone losing a lot of Bitcoin and not being able to recover it, or being hacked. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't new, but yeah, it was a story.
All that's true.
Oh my Lord.
But
Yeah.
the way
But it sounds like you've taken it very well.
Well, no, I'd completely forgotten about the coin. I came back and I joined the army, and I became an infantry soldier for the US Army, and I got married and I had 3 kids. I had since then been divorced and remarried, and I worked security on the side for the city. So I did like executive protection for the city of Portland, and then like I worked on the max where I pretty much did security while I was in the infantry, right? And been like validity, been like, let me show you the military ID card, been like, that's about as real as valid as I could have showed you that. So I joined the military, right? That's me.
Oh wow.
Like I've been
I am liking this. Veteran.
I totally forgot all about the coin because it had no value. It didn't, like, at the time.
Yeah.
I felt like
Do you know, it's amazing because such is the confusion around Bitcoin. I mean, what's been interesting is the amount of, I use Facebook for business, and I test things, I research, and I've fallen out with all of my friends over Bitcoin. They think it's some scheme to get rich, or, just even discussing alternative currencies, when most people I know are very disappointed with what's happened with coronavirus and the spending and the very poor level of education for children. I mean, it's just the quality of life, particularly for women in lockdown, has just gone downhill, right? So basically, when you start thinking about how to actually take money back and do something about it in a trust, I think Ryan is really onto something, and I really hope you're going to be involved.
I don't think it would have been without him. I mean, he's been here kind of with me on the whole time, and providing some direction of this for me.
You wanted authorization of root Bitcoin's root. Well, now you know Satoshi, one of the real roots. That's me. An identifier for who was real team would have been an aspect of pulling the team together for who was real. So
do you want to them now, or this?
Yeah, it would have been like, so there's a whole story between the term Satoshi and Tantosh. So one of the professors in school at Windsor University, his name is Dr. Sandrash. He's like one of the smartest anatomy teachers, professors, doctors I think anybody would have ever have met. Well, his cousin here, Tantosh, came in while I was already going through. So he's like one of the new classes. It turns out that him and one of the guys I'd ride the bus to school with, these guys are out playing Frisbee on the north side of the island and decided to go swimming. And I'm saying, having gone swimming, they said that as the sun set, that a riptide had started pulling them from shore. And so one of them swam back to get help. And he does. He goes and he pulls like one of the nursing students or veterinarian students, and they went and they bring help to where the other 2 guys that were out there swimming, that's Tantosh and a guy named Omar. Tantosh watched Omar drowned, and then he himself went under and he washed up on shore in a coma. And so he had his lungs pumped, and he woke up from the coma 2 days later. That's Tantosh Sandrash. That's the guy where, yeah, Satoshi was ever to have ever represented him in terms of the fact that he ever even made it. And so he'd been one of the first guys you want to root because the name's named after him.
Okay.
Satoshi really should have been a Tantoshi. Yeah.
Tell me, how did it become a hackathon, a project between roommates? How did it move from there to Bitcoin?
I said, so what happened is the fact that half was Canada and half was from America, and then from America was like, we have another guy, Fadi, been like, he's a real root, he deserved credit, but Fadi Lodi, and he been one of the real roots. He was like a Google programmer for databasing from Texas. And so he was older than me, like even now, he's like 10, 12 years older than me about. And it came into what he knew about getting in through DOS versus what I knew about filtrating him out with just software applied, essentially, based on how I knew how the root code structured. So eventually there's another guy here, Rafe Beg. He's a Fortune 500 guy. I've been like, I called him recently. He's like pretty big on pharmacy. So Dr. Big now works like in Canada and Michigan area. He's supposed to be like, apparently he bridged with Winklevoss. I mean, in terms of that's who his boss is. Anyway,
Oh,
this I hacked his computer. So why I brought him into play would have been Fadi would have been the challenge about hacking computers if it's possible, right? Tasia, my roommate, would have been like if it could have been possible. And then Rafe Big, I hacked his computer and been like, that's kind of how it begins. Then came at the point.
where did the vision, was there a vision or was there an idea for a currency? Where did the kind of impetus come?
Works for us. So this is them talking about a centralized bank versus decentralized. That's all their speech versus centralized meant bank like government. Decentralized is everything they ever wanted, which meant each individual runs his own node. He's his own banker. He's his own validator.
Yeah.
Okay. And then having a system where if you had a standard ledger that everyone agreed to, that's everything that you're hearing that Ryan's talking about or Samir ever talked about would have been governance, smart contracts, right? Everybody's application
Authenticating it at the same
correct, for
time.
kind of like validator. And
Yeah.
it's just something that's how it seemed to have evolved in terms of where we're at today in the field of business. Then that everybody with what they can apply, they have any aspect of bringing anything they want to the table. That's what you have out here in the DeFi market with the different coins, with all of what's here. The history was when you start talking about Bitcoin and BCH, Bitcoin Cash, those are more the roots for the programming behind the original. Then you'd say Ethereum, everything that's here today is how it functions to have ever been applied on the market.
How did Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash split? Do you know the story of that?
Only generically. I just knew that the split is based on having like a picture of a code and different actually somebody saying what's your 12 password key character to get in. That's the splitting between the challenge of how it's ever going to be done for validation based on a singularity that did it all for you versus the one that maintained the old school process of nope, you need a 12 password character to get in terms of code. That's the only difference between the two.
So it's a lot of they contributed to the QR codes.
I promoted the QR code in terms of what it looked like. Canada tried to bring that into play and it just didn't take the same for some reason of its root from everybody.
So just explain in simple terms. Yeah, explain in simple terms the bridge between QR codes and Bitcoin.
See, a QR code meant something you could scan. So it's supposed to be an image of 3D of the actual code itself. That's what a QR code is. So like a UPC is like a 2-dimensional. You know how you have like lines split across like in terms of UPC. So that's how you'd write it in code. So a QR code would have been 3D now. Now you have all little block cubes to have given you like a 3D array, an image of what the code looked like presented in front of you. That's what it's supposed to be, right? But that's its root. That's in terms of saying turning the code into a picture and just trying to make it simpler was why I would have promoted it. But it didn't take the same that Bitcoin then roots Ethereum, which becomes bank processing tied to the banks, like a central code, a code that allows everything to work together on this exchange. So that's where everybody's involvement with creation of cryptocurrency today, how much it ever evolved from the root. That's where I can give you my opinion versus I could just tell you where the root came from
Got it. I like this idea of the finding out where the root came from, because then people feel safe, when they know the story and they see, it's so easy in the financial press to just put in a Bitcoin eats too much energy, or do you know what I mean? It's so easy to destroy a new product with any type of misinformation. So it's really nice to kind of go back to the beginning and find out about it.
I told my class that they'd been the strongest of IA that ever applied, and have been like, who would have thought that it would have been Pakistani, Indian, like American Canadian, British rooted school for medicine is actually what it
turned out. You must have been in your 20s, yeah? As a hacking project.
I was 18.
18, incredible.
It's awesome.
True story. At the time, I'd have been 19 or 20. And so Tasia, he'd been like 21, 22. Fadi, he'd have been like 30 some, right? Pat was like 30. So that's where Bitcoin comes from. And then here's the sting for stingers would have been while I'm in the Caribbean, one of my roommates, Tasia Gandala, like off the computer where it's really like founded on, it's out of his room. It would have been, I challenged McAfee. I came online and said McAfee's garbage and like his antiviral program's garbage.
Yeah.
That guy rooted to find me. What do you know? 10 years later, that guy came and found me.
Did he?
He sure did.
What did he say?
He said he knows who rooted Bitcoin and he knows Satoshi Nakamoto at 99%.
Oh,
That's what he said.
yeah. So Ryan,
Hi.
shall we talk a little bit about why we've come together? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the last in a female line of Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, freedmen. So Ryan is my long lost cousin. And we know the bankers have been very naughty because my grandfather was murdered. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Shane earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, my brother knows this. All the cousins know it, but they're all wanting to do something remarkable with it, and no one's done it. And when I know the last company I worked for made up a name, they made up a name, and it's now worth $1 billion. And I saw everything I needed to see there. Yeah. And I thought I could do better. So basically, I've just been waiting for the right person. And so I think with you, Ryan,
Yeah.
we need.
Well, it's going to be with all of us. You guys, I mean, it's really been a consistent of a lot of people that have helped develop this. There's been a core dozen or two that have helped guide the direction of what they, what's been the collective vision people see for the future currency and communities, right? And so I just look for the best, right? And then it's kind of
absolutely. Yeah, because I'm going to be in the position that I'm managing quite a bit of money, right? Because I've been researching everyone for the last, when lockdown started, I just started researching because everyone was online. I started listening to all these pitches. I've been on the phone to crypto fraudsters, got to the bottom of them, made friends with them, and basically I realized that it's all a load of nonsense. Yeah. So you might as well put your own money with your own people and your own family and your own trust. And
that'll get other people to trust it too. That's where it starts.
Exactly. So you start with the right people, and basically you're very harsh,
Yeah.
Because
I'm honest, right? I can be brutally honest. That's all.
Good for you. Me too. Because when money is in play,
Yeah. You got to be honest, and you got to keep it straight in business, right? It's the best way to do it.
Absolutely. But basically, I find it really annoying that any of my friends are investing in with anyone when they should be putting their money with Ryan and myself. And then Ryan is going to have the very difficult.
I mean, they're really putting their money into themselves. The baseline of this is, as an entrepreneur, it's like, how do we make it profitable? And that's where the destination travel and the agriculture comes in. And that's just on a long-term basis. I'll tell you, a lot of crypto NFT projects I've seen are based off FOMO. And that's fear of missing out. And a lot of them end up being vaporware. Now we've seen, I forget, Wonderland DAO, guy pulled rug on that place. And so it's just, there hasn't been much of substance,
So people are setting their money on fire. They are so delusional.
Yeah. And so we just want to get it going in the right direction and it's going to benefit everybody in the long run.
Well, my only interest, right, is it's a 420 friendly community. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole direction we're headed now.
Children friendly, no bullies.
Yeah.
Have you been to Oregon? Have you been to Oregon?
Do you know what? I hate America so much.
420 friendly. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if you haven't been here to the Green State, then we're the Green State.
Each community will be unique in their own ways, to their own culture too, at the same time. And that's what'll make travel experience better for everybody. is so like, and that doesn't have to be defined any, but yeah,
And
we want
all
to,
my
they're all
girlfriends want to
community based,
dance.
right? Yes, children, right? That's huge. If somebody wanted to do an adult only community somewhere and they said, hey, here's the land, we want to use your concept, and but you know, home, I'd say no to that. You know what I'm saying? But for the
Oh my
most
God.
part, yes, it's all about all families, both people traveling with families. It's about having that way you can have you know, you have your core basis of the middle class families work from homes, and then you have the work and stay and people know each other there, so that you can, when you're traveling, it can be a trusted environment that you can leave your kids at the daycare there, and you can meet, you know, and in the case of Puerto Rico where the base is, you know, you could travel there and you could, you know, your kids get to interact with Puerto Rican kids, and then say there's one in Scotland too, and so now you guys, you know, people traveling from a different India get to interact with their kids at their daycare, and then you guys do as adults, you know, utilizing, you know, community kitchens and having you know, a night or two where you put a festival on, or some extra, you know, nice meal for guests to come down, and or maybe it's the morning time and you don't want to cook in
Absolutely.
your
And
place, so you just go down for the
businesses.
breakfast. Yeah.
What's happening is businesses, you know, businesses are global, so you need somewhere to come together for 2 or 3 weeks. And also,
Yeah.
all the women like to dance. Do you get what
Yeah.
so there needs to be music. Everyone loves
Well,
music.
that's it. So Puerto Rico does a lot with their drum, the drum circles and the stuff they have with that. So it's definitely, you know, entertainment is a huge aspect. You know, with Puerto Rico, you could do zip lining, you have outdoor theaters, and then you have the gazebo like drum theaters, and you can do any sort of music entertainment local to any community. You know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm really, really keen to get it going in London. Yeah. To
Yeah.
get it going in
Yeah,
London.
well, that's a primary interest along with Puerto Rico, and I know India has a team that's pretty anxious to get going on it too. So,
So St. Kitts, the island where Bitcoin comes from, it was a British island. So everybody there, right? I'm from Limekiln, man. I'm from
Limekiln.
St. Kitts.
Oh, I knew I like two
I'm a
friends.
Tahitian, man. Yeah, man.
Oh, good. Yes,
Well,
we are
that's
two
where that comes
language.
from. I'm not mocking you. It would have been like, then there's the Navitians. We'd be Navitian, right? But I don't even know how to do it like them. I'm Katitian. So that St. Kitts and
Wait,
Nevis.
where are you from, Katishan? You're because I noticed your brother's Samir. So you've got are you from Pakistan?
No, no, I'm born in Kansas, and my dad, he's from England, and so and my mom, she'd be from Egypt, and so I'm a mix. So my name is Shane Mayfield. This is Samir Mayfield. I live in
Oh,
Oregon, right? But medical school, I'm telling you, I was in the Caribbean, so I was in St. Kitts, and
yeah,
that's exactly where I lived in Limekiln. That's where the Dirty 30's from. We're from Limekiln, and it was like a
nice.
British island. So there's still a British accent that still like lingers in terms of islanders. And so having lived there for 2 years, it'd been like that's how I'd speak like that, where on the daily for how long you'd ever been like submerged into the culture.
yeah, you start to pick up
I
their
started to
accent.
pick
I
up
do.
their
Oh,
accent.
I love it. I love it.
That's why I like
Yeah.
your accent as much as it reminds me of the islands. You know, I'd only gotten a little bit of it. So
Oh, you know, England, England and the Caribbean are very well connected in London.
you might even have
Very.
someone around you. So when I went through, there was one of the girls there, she's from England who went through the program with me. So because Windsor is tied to Royal House of Medicine, both those schools were owned by the same guy.
Windsor,
Windsor?
the
No,
Windsors.
that's one of yours. That's what I'm saying. It's not
I'm not a big fan of the Windsors. I hear the Queen is getting very old.
but not Windsor Castle. I'm talking the medical school. So the
I
medical
know, I
school
know, I
is
know.
like
I'm just being
split.
silly.
I thought the castle was badass. Everybody told me it's the most badass castle. I heard like they host people to a stay there. Been like supposed to be the most luxurious hosting for been like
You know what? I think it's time to put a new Queen of England, and we've already chosen her. That is all I'm going to say.
the new queen.
We have, yeah.
But
Do you know what? She leads a team of men.
Yeah.
All the cash. So let's just say you guys are going to be meeting her.
Cool.
so in St. Kitts had been like that's what the flow of the money was. It'd been an Elizabethan.
Elizabethan. Maybe
Yep.
St. Kitts would be a nice place for us all to get together.
Oh
Do you know
snap.
where else we could get together where someone's already got land and a project? Because I think it's about time we start collecting communities, right? And
Yeah,
adding them.
definitely. And we're talking to Tawanda about the diamond mine and how this community could be beneficial to diamond mines and those sorts of places in Africa. And you know, the governments could be less fighting over resources and food if their people were fed easier through these communities. And people wouldn't have to cheat diamonds as you hired them because they're taken care of, right? we're in the MVP stage, and we're planning the MVP now, which is a market value product. So Puerto Rico is the base, but we want to do one in any country that is, willing and able to work with us. So
London, I think we can do with WhatsApp. So I've got to tell you, if you look at my WhatsApp and you look at the photo, there's a picture of Grenfell Tower, right? I'm from West London. 4 of my girlfriends watched people jump out of windows. Yeah. Because there's this really unsafe cladding and really unfit conditions, right? So basically, we're really, really keen to take some basically start a housing association, an autonomous housing association. Yeah. And I think that we're going to have enough money to invest in London. Yeah,
that's great.
Because the price is going through the roof, and we've got the cash. Basically, we will do as soon as we've kind of come together with a proposition.
So it's worth mentioning too, that's where the events are going to come in handy, and that's his name's Stephen Adams, and it's called Think and Prosper, and that's a separate DAO organization, and that's utilized to bring together investment in innovators. And so we're gonna work with what we have for technology now for cities and communities, but over the next few years, as we develop the prototypes and start them, for the other ones after that, we want to bring together these innovators to start introducing better technology, to build these communities and to interact with them. So these events become a way for us to do that. The first event that we're doing is May 21st, something 50 to 100 people in DC, and that becomes institutional use and cryptocurrency on governmental levels. And so we're advocating to have people there involved on high levels with that, I guess.
Got it. So what I'm thinking right now, because I've looked into the robotics and the automation and the kind of life optimization, quality of life optimization. And I really want to help shape the way that's written about, because when I'm not sure how to position the early stage investment, when I don't think they quite realize how brainy you and I are.
Right. So that's where these different DAO structures come in too, for creating different entities. And so Puerto Rico does kind of have a base around the innovations for that we're looking for. And so these first 4 communities, like one is kind of hopefully built around the space, right? Space aspect, that's the last one in the least developed area. The first one is in Arecibo, and that becomes a place of interest. We have John D. Story, and he's looking to do EVs and kind of some robotics, and has some land and commercial space there. And so we definitely want to, that's looking for a ground energy shipping port, fully automated, right? And so that becomes the baseline for robotics right there. So
you're going to build your own.
Well, it's going to be the robotics will be another separate DAO, and I don't necessarily need to be the lead or the plan administrator.
No, got it. But that's so what we say, that's in the pipeline.
Right. So these are all going to come together as different DAO organizations and look to find others to fill the leadership roles within them that are, X amount along already, and then we can just give them the system and our resources, innovators, and
So listen, it's 12:30 at night. No, it's 1:45 in the morning.
Great.
Yeah.
It's 4:42 p.m. here.
4:42.
So 16:42.
Yeah, so you're 8 hours behind, right? Which is really it's hard work.
Are we behind or ahead? What time is it for you?
I'm ahead. Yeah.
10:30 a.m.
Yeah, so it's almost 1 a.m.
You're late night.
Almost always.
Yeah, I don't normally mind, but I'm with. So listen, let's do this again. Where can I follow you on social media? I won't take the piss.
She doesn't use social media.
I mean, that's the thing. I've been right here. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm being hosted by Ryan because the social media was difficult for me to actually get the word out. So.
Got it. Brilliant. Wonderful. Let me reflect on what you said, because when we have a few goes at it, it just gets more polished. Yeah.
Right.
You know what's really amazing, right? Is I am seeing people 10 years younger than me who are so smart. And I don't know where, the internet has opened up access to the geniuses.
This IB program, I can thank Europe. I can thank you.
IB, International Baccalaureate.
Yep.
Oh, cool. That is hard work, isn't it?
I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yep,
Yeah.
International Baccalaureate Program.
Yeah.
It
And
was
I'll
meeting you, Ms. Friedman.
yeah, nice to meet you, Brandon.
Shane.
Shane Mayfield and Nasia, Samia.
You could say Satoshi.
Nice to meet you.
Satoshi, the what do you call a name that is made up of 5 different names and different meanings?
Brilliant.
I know. I don't quite believe that someone ended up dead because of
Genius.
Mind-boggling.
No, something like that.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
mind-boggling.
anyway, all right.
Cool. Great, Nicola.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you
Bye.
soon.
Take care. Bye bye.